What's up, you guys? It's me again. I'm going to be breaking down UFC 318 Poirier versus Holloway. It'll be taking place July 18th. Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is going to be the retirement match for our boy, the Diamond. Here, let me move you guys over here a little bit. Props to Dustin for not cherry picking this retirement fight, because there's a lot of different fights that he could have taken. A Dan Hooker rematch. Pretty much anybody in the rankings except for Max Holloway would have made more sense as a rematch or retirement fight for him. It would have been easier as a task for him to complete before he rode off into the sunset as well. This is actually going to be a squabble for him. So before we get into breaking down the card, I just wanted to ask you guys, has anybody ever tried this man Dustin's hot sauce? I've only seen the videos of him promoting it at the press conferences whenever people are fighting, and he's like, hot sauce for everyone. Has anyone ever does it taste good? Is it good? Or is it bad and it's just Dustin's, and that's the reason why it has hype and people like it? I want to try it. So please let me know if you think that it's good, because I'm trying to go pick up a bottle soon. So let's go through the canceled fight graveyard real quick. There's going to be 3 matchups here. UFC 318 is kind of like a Frankenstein card of a bunch of different fights that didn't fit on other cards before this one and just made it onto this event. Dana White has openly said that this card was made for Dustin Poirier to retire, and that makes sense because the strength of the scheduling around that main event isn't the best. But I mean, it's fights that we get to watch on Saturday, so I've never complained about this. Anyways, Aliskerov versus Ferreira. Ikram Aliskerov had to pull out of this fight, so Bruno Ferreira is going to be fighting with Jackson McVeigh. This will happen this Saturday too. Neil Magny was supposed to fight Gunnar Nelson on this card, but Gunnar Nelson couldn't make it to the dance, so now Neil Magny is going to be fighting with Alessio Zaleski dos Santos on August 2nd. That will be 2 more cards from now. I believe that's Tatsura versus Albazi. Amanda Ribas versus Tabitha Ricci has been moved to Abu Dhabi as well. That would have happened on this day, but it's happening in Abu Dhabi. So now we can take a look at the early prelims. The first fight is going to be Carly Judas versus Nicole Cagliari. Judas is a silent killer who's early in her career, and I think that she's done losing for right now. Whenever we're dealing with like sprawling MMA, WMMA prospects and talent, I guess you can find, like, even Tom Aspinall, he's going to be losing to heel hooks early on in his career. You lose early on in your MMA career. Jack Della Maddalena started off his pro MMA record with 2 losses, and then look at him now. That 4-2 record on Judas, it's only indicative that she doesn't have that many fights, and if she did, she'd likely win more. Gabby Fernandez was the last girl to beat Carly Judas, and she was also the last woman to beat Wang Tong too, and we love Wang Tong in this weight class. It seems like every woman is a finisher until they fight Fernandez. Jasmine Jasudavicius and Teresa Bleda, they both beat her, but they're each quality wrestlers. Cagliari's going to come out and she's going to try to wrestle Carly Judas, but she'll be trying to do this while being undersized again. Ernesta Karac-Cato was the last woman to beat Nicole Cagliari, and she won a decision over Cagliari with pillow hands, and just by being too large for her to get taken down. 5'7" Carly Judas is going to be 4 inches taller than Nicole Cagliari, and she will be a lot more physically strong than this woman too. Enough so to the point where she will stop herself from being taken down. Judas is just going to thump on Cagliari, and she's going to finish her. And I see this happening in the second round. Cagliari's pretty bad though, so we're going to go on to the next fight. It's going to be Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. The UFC believes in McVeigh, or he believes in himself, because this is the 3rd opponent that he's received since signing on to fight Dumas at UFC 317. McVeigh is from LFA, and he hasn't been competing with the best opponents in that promotion. Largely, it's just been tomato cans, dudes who can't wrestle, dudes who aren't the best strikers. But I mean, they are 185ers. They just don't look to be very serious MMA fighters. Bruno Ferreira is going to be his toughest challenge, and Cedric Dumas would have been easing him up into this level. But I guess he feels like he's ready for it. Before Chris Ewart, I would have probably picked him to win, because it's just hard to gauge the talent of Jackson McVeigh with what he has on footage. Because I'm telling you, the dudes that he's fighting up until this point, they haven't been like pretty much anything. They've been at around the level of what Dumas has been displaying. This Ewart guy, whenever I was watching his footage, I was pretty confident that he would beat Jackson McVeigh, and I'm pretty much sold that Bruno Ferreira gets this done, and that's a nasty knockout. If Bruno blows this, I will be heartbroken. Ferreira, he can reliably beat Stoltzfus, Hawes, and Petrosian level talent. So granted, Jackson McVeigh is around that general level, he's going to get knocked out by Bruno Ferreira. Strikers on the level of Ruzaboev with oppressive distance management or high-level grapplers give Ferreira a hard time. And that kind of concerns me in this matchup because Jackson McVeigh, he has the base of a grappler, he's also 6'4", which means that he's going to be throwing spears at range, and putting a long sticky jab on Bruno Ferreira is low-key how you beat him. And that with the pressure grappling too once he gets tired. I think that Abus was the person who got him this way. And that was a fight that he had pretty much won and then just let slip away from him. I'm still going to pick Bruno Ferreira to win this fight. I think that winning via really sleepy knockout keeps him relevant. If he fails, we get a new prospect out of it. But it's going to be nice to see if Jackson McVeigh is really about his business, because the fighters that he's been matchmade with up until this point, they've just been heavy bags. So what do we got now? Ryan Spann versus Lucas Bresky. I'd not trust Spann to win a fight against any other heavyweight except for Lucas Bresky. Bresky is coming off of back-to-back KO losses to Kennedy Nzechukwu and Mick Parkin. Spann isn't able to KO Salsa Boy Waldo Cortez Acosta, but watch the way that Sergey Pavlovich isn't going to be able to do the same thing either. I don't think that's any indictment on your ability to fight at heavyweight if you're losing to Waldo Cortez Acosta. He doesn't look it that much, but he's actually not bad at fighting. Spann, he can sub heavyweights. If you are a 205er, Spann used to be a light heavyweight. He came up to 265. If you are one of these people, there's a chance that you have very dominant grappling when compared to the average heavyweight. I always forget how big Ryan Spann is. He's like 6'5". He's really large. I think he's going to try to wrestle Bresky, and that he could probably do it too. Spann, he's got to finish this fight in round 1. Walter Walker was dragged into a point fight with Lucas Bresky in their match. A heel hook would have definitely worked whenever he had one of his legs isolated against the cage of Walter Walker. He just didn't even try it. But this guy can get subbed. It's not like he's super active. He's just a strong, big person. So whenever you do put him on his butt in the corner of the octagon against the cage, he's going to use all of his muscle to try to get up. If you have expertise to offset his strength, then you could definitely find a finish, because he's presenting his neck and his legs, his arms. It's all there for the taking. So let's hope that Ryan Spann can demonstrate some pretty good fight IQ and get to some type of joint or submission or choke. I got my boy Ryan Spann getting this done for the 50 states. I said that Bresky does have the susceptibility to being submitted, but it's never happened to him in his UFC career, so I will pick a round 1 knockout for Ryan Spann. I predict a scary and uncontained Spann getting to a fast KO in round 1. I like that we're getting more heavyweight fights in general too. So hopefully we can get more heavyweight knockouts with all these new heavyweight fights that we've been getting. We've gotten heel hooks, all types of stuff. I'm ready to see some nap time KOs, man, like some really sleepy stuff. Hopefully this fight delivers. Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. Crute has lost to worse fighters in this. If you want to call his draws, his losses, any of those. He's drawn with Alonzo Minifield and then also Rodolfo Bellato. And Rodolfo Bellato, that's just inexcusable. And it makes me want to never pick Jimmy Crute to ever win a fight ever again. That boy Marcin Prachnio, he's been in dogfights with middle-of-the-road contenders and also has a win over Khalil Roundtree as well. I was going through Marcin Prachnio's UFC Fight Pass highlights, and I did see fights that he lost to Modestas Bukauskas and Vitor Petrino, but these fighters, they had to earn these submissions that they scored over Marcin Prachnio. You have to be effectively able to break someone down with your grappling in order to get Marcin Prachnio out of there. Jimmy Crute has displayed that he's a good wrestler, but his control is not good. He's able to secure takedowns, he can't maintain positions. And whenever he can't secure takedowns, he just stalls against the cage and then ends up losing the fight from there because he gets reversed. Jimmy Crute is going to win some freebies in this division, but as soon as you give him a name, anyone with a name, he's just going to fold up. This dude got leg kick TKO'd by Anthony Smith, KO'd by Hill, Minifield, and drew with Minifield and Bellato like I just talked about. And he suffered his first MMA loss to Misha Serkunov via Peruvian necktie. So that goes to show you what level this guy's jiu-jitsu is on, even if he can wrestle a little bit. He's getting Peruvian necktied by Misha Serkunov. In all of the fights that I saw Marcin Prachnio taking on these different contenders, like in his rise through the rankings at the very beginning of his UFC career, he was never in a position where I was like, oh my god, this man is about to get Peruvian necktied. Even for the grappling sequences that he was losing, he's not just getting styled on like that. I wouldn't call Jimmy Crute a tough customer. People are going to be picking Jimmy Crute to win this fight because he's a wrestler and Prachnio gives up takedowns. But Crute is just so finishable, I don't like the idea of selecting him to win. So I'm going to call that Prachnio wins via decision. And that's just what I'm going to go with. I'm not going to think about it anymore. Next is Adam Fugit versus Islam Dulatov. Fugit? What is it? Dulatov, he fights like a rooster, lots of openings to get randomly knocked out, but he has good output, so he's putting shots on people and preventing them from returning fire. Adam Fugit, he had a bit too close of a fight with Josh Quinlan in his last one. I think Josh Quinlan isn't even on the roster anymore, and he had gotten cut after this fight. Very close back and forth striking battle with Adam Fugit here. I think that Adam Fugit very narrowly kept his job on the roster after his last fight with Quinlan. This is going to be him right back on the hot seat against the dude who's coming up from the Contender Series. Islam Dulatov definitely has a scarier name than he has scary footage whenever he fights. Even at 6'3", this dude's offense is pretty messy. He doesn't hit crazy hard. But granted, Islam is a young fighter. There's a good chance that he's improved since the last time that we've seen him. So it's always safe to ride with that assumption whenever we're talking about these Contender Series, dude. Whenever they earn their contract and then whenever they make their debut, you're probably going to see an enhanced version of the fighter that you saw on DWCS. Fugit getting subbed by Malat. He got dropped and subbed by this guy. He just got planted by a straight. He postures up and tries to start wrestling out of instinct and gets guillotined. If Dulatov can hurt Fugit first, he can definitely wrap up some type of submission and get him up out of there with it. I don't think that Adam is going to be busy enough in general to stop himself from getting finished. Dulatov is 6'3" and very violent. Fugit isn't stopping most welterweights who earn contracts off of the Contender Series, especially not now, 2024. 2025, next month, like a month from now, we're going to be getting new Contender Series prospects coming because we're going to be doing a new season, and I can't wait to talk about those episodes whenever they do happen. I think that I'll cover them weekly. But for this fight, I'm going to go with Dulatov via a round 1 TKO. I think he will drop this guy, hurt him bad, get him to shell up. We're going to get a finish in turtle, maybe from a full guard position. Knee on belly, full mount. It'll be something like this. The prelims now. We're going to be talking about Atiba Gauthier versus Robert Valentin. Finally, we get to see what type of highlights Gauthier can produce. If we got put on ice for all this time just to watch Gauthier get his jaw spun by Robert Valentin, I'm crashing out. Because based off of how people talk about this dude on the internet, you would think this is like the second coming of Romero. I mean, genetically, this guy is a Romero type figure. This dude has insane traps. Look at how big his traps are on his neck. And then his lat inserts on his back. This dude looks like he has wings. Valentin is just a test for new prospects in the UFC because he lost to Ryan Loder. He lost to Torres Finney. And to me, that makes it infinitely clear that if the UFC gives you this dude as a fight, they just want to see exactly how bad you hurt people. Atiba Gauthier's knockout over Jose Daniel Medina, it only took 3.5 minutes. It was a punch flurry. He creates some space, initiates a Muay Thai clinch, and then just throws a knee straight through the guard. And it just sleeps the guy. It was really nice. The only thing that can beat Gauthier is going to be the scales in this fight. I don't think that there's any way that Valentin wins. I got Atiba via round 1 KO, flying genetics. Francisco Prieto versus Nikolai Veretnikov. Veretnikov, he did not represent Sambo grappling well whenever he allowed himself to get TKO'd on the ground by Austin Vanderford without a big moment beforehand. He just gassed out and then got his face smashed up against the cage. Veretnikov, he used face blocks in this fight with Vanderford to get the bout stopped because the ref did not honor the corpse guard technique, which he protested and pushed Austin over. He got up and he was like, dude, I was just using corpse guard, and the ref stopped the fight. Vanderford tried to shake his hand and Veretnikov shoved him. Prieto sold so hard in a fight with Jake Matthews, Jamie Malarkey, and Daniel Zellhuber. This is a strange grouping of losses. Veretnikov showed in his fight with Danny Barlow that he can be gun-shy enough to straight up ruin a fight as well. Prieto won't have these same reservations, and he will get wrestled to a loss trying to finish a fight before he just waits to get styled on by Veretnikov. Veretnikov losing to Vanderford the way that he did makes me think that he isn't styling on anyone anyways, so. Prieto knocking out Ataman Azaitar is what gives me hope that he isn't washed already. If he loses this, he will be 1-4 in the UFC, but I'm still going to select him to win via round 1 KO. He has some really tidy boxing for this lightweight division. He's Argentinian and reminds me a lot of Esteban Ribovic in the way that he throws his punches, not exactly with his kickboxing. Ribovic is a better kickboxer than Francisco Prieto, but all things considered, his boxing isn't that bad. You just can't get wrestled. I don't think you will. Marvin Vettori at number 10 versus Brendan Allen at number 11. A middleweight bout. Marvin has been taking a beating from life, and I feel for him very deeply. He checked a kick in his fight with Paulo Costa that destroyed his PCL in 2021. takes a loss to Cannonier where he gets beat to a quarter inch of his life, and then he destroys his shoulder in training whenever he moves gym. So can't train for a little bit because he's left his old combat gym. He goes to American Top Team, starts training there for a couple of months, smashes his shoulder. He said that it was like his rotator cuff, labrum, and bicep, so he needed to do a surgery for it. And that after a little while, he thought that he could get back to healing himself with PT, and he just made it worse, so he needed another procedure. Him tearing his shoulder is capped off by just recently in April. Like, this is so hard to talk about. His brother unfortunately died in a house fire, and he's battling the mental struggles of like coming back from injury, which is horrible. And then he also has to go through this too. This kind of reminds me of Damon Jackson. Oh, UFC Vegas 60. I think he fought Pat Sabatini. Oh man. And his brother had passed away like that Tuesday, bro. Ooh, and instead of pulling out of the fight, he like showed up and he won. And like it was probably one of Damon Jackson's best performances. It happened super fast too. He got the finish, but like, oh, it doesn't bring your people back, and he just looks so broken, dude. Like, it's so hard. And Marvin, they dislike each other too, him and Brendan Allen, because he got into it with Brendan in a casino last year in August. This is also going to be a beef between American Top Team versus Kill Cliff MMA, because those are the two different gyms that they go to. Marvin Vettori, he needs this one really badly. I'm going to select him to win via decision. I think that the more cut and dry answer is going to be Brendan Allen, and any other event other than like there wasn't this as a motivator for Marvin Vettori that he's dealing with. He's got to get this win, dude. Like, I'm a little brother too, man. Like, would hurt my feelings bad to get that call. And like, this is something that you can transmute this pain into like something positive for your family, and be something that people can like organize around in this time of need. I really hope he wins this, dude. That's such a bad situation to be in, bro. Like, my heart really goes out to him. That's so horrible. So now going on to the featured prelim, it's going to be Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Kyler Phillips is number 12. Vinicius Oliveira is number 15 at the bantamweight division. Kyler Phillips, he took a bad loss to Font, who jabbed his face into a shepherd's pie. And I wasn't expecting for this to happen. The reason why is because I didn't anticipate Kyler Phillips having cardio issues the way that he did. He blew through all of his cardio in round 1 of his fight with Font, and he was controlling largely that entire round from top positions. But he just tired himself out doing this. Kyler Phillips, he looked like he had never struck in his life in his last fight with Font. He looked like he only had grappled before. He rescued Font from the washed allegations by allowing him to win this decision and by looking so bad in it. Vinicius Oliveira is going to be in the octagon doing whatever he wants to a guy who doesn't have the stand-up to deal with the level of striker that Vinny is, or the level of striker that Font was, and who was also on an expiring clock counting down whenever he runs out of stamina from round 1. As soon as the ref waves on the fight, Kyler Phillips is on a race against the clock, like battling his own gas tank, because if this goes into the second and third rounds, Vinicius Oliveira has shown that in a striking matchup, he can pace all the way to the end of 15 minutes. Kyler Phillips has shown that he can't. In an MMA fight where he's using all of his tools, he's going to get tired and he's going to start looking bad and start getting beat up. So I think this is going to be the perfect storm for Vinicius to give us a highlight reel KO. Vinicius, he has cool moments in the cage, like the Rabona kick, and his victory over Said Nurmagomedov, which was pretty underwhelming if you were to go back and watch the fight. It was just like a fight. Nothing like crazy happened. I mean, that was a pretty high-profile opponent. He won, which is pretty cool. But in the way of knockouts, Vinicius Oliveira just has one really good knockout over Bernardo Sopage, and then some moments that you can repost as like clips. Outside of that, we need another highlight reel. We need a sleepy KO over a ranked contender. This will get Vinicius Oliveira some leverage that he needs in this division to get closer towards challenging for the belt. If Kyler wants to look just like Merab now in this fight, when it's important for Vinicius to win, after giving a free W to Font, I'm going to shake my head. But I could totally see it going this way too. I'm still going to pick Oliveira to win via round 2 TKO in this fight. And that's what I'm going to say about it. The main card now, that was going to be our featured prelim. We're going to go on to Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber at lightweight. Why is this happening? I think that people were calling for another fight either involving the Menace or Zellhuber, but they got into it on Instagram or Twitter or something. This is like low-hanging fruit that the UFC is allowing Zellhuber to pick over that IG beef or that Twitter beef that was started all those months ago. I love Michael Johnson, but he can't keep doing this. He's nearly like 40. He's 39 years old. He's taking on a new prospect at 155 who they tried to build up as the next big thing in this division alongside Manuel Torres. But just because this guy does have a lot of ability and he has youth on his side, that doesn't make Michael Johnson any less of a coin flip fighter. Whenever I say coin flip fighter, that means that he has the possibility to win impossible matchups, but there's a high likelihood that he's going to sell the easiest fights that he's given. Stylistically, this fight favors Johnson the same way that it favored Esteban Ribovic for the fact that Zellhuber rests his guard really low and is susceptible to looping strikes over the top and kicks. And Johnson has a really nasty overhand. Ottoman Zaitar was put out by this one. Zellhuber could win this fight via ancient Greek father beating in round 1, but Zellhuber had a very close fight with Francisco Prieto, who was another boxer like Michael Johnson. Daniel Zellhuber, he gets tagged a lot, and he's a pillow puncher as well. Largely, he only has decision wins on his record, Daniel Zellhuber. I can see Michael Johnson stopping this fight in the 3rd round via TKO. Before I move on, I don't know why, I feel like Daniel Zellhuber looks like his mama. I just feel like there's somebody, like a woman in this man's family who looks exactly like that in the face, and he just got those genes. This man got the mommy genes, for sure. Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull at featherweight. Bellator fighters should get sacrificed to marketable contenders who need hype injections. You can get them some clout, these contenders, without sacrificing any UFC talent. Dan Ige is my dog, but he seriously vexed me by snatching a W from the jaws of defeat against Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson would have won that fight if he didn't lose it, and that makes me salty because I picked Sean Woodson to win that fight. Whenever we're talking about Patricio Pitbull, though, Dan Ige 110% deserves to get fed this fat Thanksgiving turkey, this clout turkey. That's literally all Patricio Pitbull is. Whenever he was in the cage against Yair, I got fleeced into thinking that this guy would actually be something. Because I remember in 2021, AJ McKee had choked out Patricio Pitbull in round 1 of their fight. And because he had accomplished this, people were talking about McKee versus Volk being a potential super fight that could be made. And actually humoring the idea of McKee winning the fight against Volkanovski. Like that would ever go down. Dan Ige, he's had some pretty gut-wrenching losses that were split decisions. People who really know what's good, though, they understand that Ige is one of those guys. And before Garcia popped up, Steve Garcia just recently, I'd confidently say that Dan Ige would win a fight against everyone behind him in the rankings. And Pitbull has already displayed how not about this life he is in the Yair fight. He was super gun-shy. He just watched Yair beat him by decision for 15 minutes. And I think that there's a very high likelihood of history repeating itself here. This should be free money for Dan Ige, and we may actually get a knockout from this matchup as well. I'm actually really comforted by knowing that Bellator champions are on the same level as UFC top 10 through 15 ranked contenders. Because imagine, dude, imagine it was that if you are a champion from a lesser promotion, that guaranteed that you would make it into the top 15, and that you were better than a certain number of ranked people in the UFC because you were a champion in another promotion. Dudes like Bellator champions or PFL champions or ONE FC champions or KSW champions or Glory champions, those guys don't even get numbers next to their names a lot of the times. And that's just a testament to how good UFC fighters are. Dan Ige is going to win this via decision, and that's just me playing it safe. I do want to see a knockout happen here. Third fight into the main card is going to be Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. That boy Kevin Holland said that he just wants a bunch of easy fights. They try to make that man Kevin Holland into a contender every year. Then he loses, then we forget, and then they try again. After Kevin Holland's 2020 run was over, he would alternate between 170 pounds and 185 pounds. And each time the UFC would build him up like a contender who's debuting whenever he would go down to the next weight class or go back up. Vettori, he chased Holland out of 185 in 2021. Kevin Holland debuts at 170 in 2022 against Cowboy Oliveira. He makes it to a fight with JDM. He loses this fight. He hangs around for one more fight at 170 in 2023 against MVP, where he just lost again. And then he moved back up to 185. He won once, and then went back to welterweight after losing 2 more fights to Roman Dolidze and Reiner de Ritter. That one win was to Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Every time, whenever we're talking about Kevin Holland's fights, it comes down to, is Kevin Holland getting a real fight this time? If no, he wins. If yes, he loses. Daniel Rodriguez is not far off from the level opponent that Holland has been winning against, so I don't think that he's going to be the one to send Kevin back to 185 pounds. Daniel Rodriguez just needs to drop that mixtape immediatamente. I think that Holland is going to win via round 2 KO. Weirdly, I would say that Holland as a striker is around the same level as Ian Gary was whenever he knocked out Daniel Rodriguez. Ian Gary seemed to receded in terms of striking a little bit. He's not as good as he looked whenever he first showed up. Kevin Holland has always looked good at striking, though, so if it does come down to can a knockout be produced against a fighter like Daniel Rodriguez, if we're talking about Kevin Holland, probably. So that's the reason why I'm going to pick him to win this fight. The co-main event of this card. And a lot of people have said nasty things about what they thought about this event and how it was stacked and oh, it should have been better, and I can't believe that this is a pay-per-view event, numbered card, like, what is this? This is horrible, this is worse than a fight night. I don't think this is that bad, dude. As I was just looking at all the different fights, I'm excited to watch this. I don't know if you guys share the same sentiments, but I actually I'm not off-put by the idea of watching Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov in the co-main event of this card. Paulo Costa getting a mad knockout in round 1 of this fight would actually save the UFC. There's certain guys who, like, if they just started performing, we've always been fans of them, but they've never given us the great highlights that we've wanted. If those people actually started knocking people out like Paulo Costa, and we just got scary knockouts out of them every single time, Josh Emmett, that low-key helped the UFC whenever he knocked out Bryce Mitchell like that. Just because we know that Josh Emmett is a very big puncher, but new fans who have only heard the stories about how hard he hits, they hadn't had any first-hand experiences with seeing him put people out. I don't know about you guys, but I've completely forgotten about any time where Paulo Costa actually was scary in the octagon as a fighter and didn't just have big muscles. The first fight that I ever saw Paulo Costa get into live was against Israel Adesanya, and ever since then it's just been all downhill. Kopylov had his hype stolen from him by Anthony Hernandez. He didn't bounce back well after by winning a stinky decision against Cesar Almeida. That's a Glory Kickboxing guy, and low-key, Cesar Almeida was like wrestling Kopylov. I think that Roman Kopylov had to wrestle himself in order to win this fight as well. So if he comes out and tries to wrestle Paulo Costa and he does it and they just stall, like, dude, this fight is going to be horrible. This has the potential to be a bad fight or a good fight. I see it on paper going one of two ways. Paulo Costa producing a knockout, or even Roman Kopylov producing a knockout within rounds 1 or 2, or this just being a decision where they're each trying hard on a limited skill set to win the fight. So it just looks really bad. Kopylov beat Chris Curtis at the beginning of this year, and he likely does beat Costa too. And I say this because Costa hasn't finished a fight since Uriah Hall in 2018, and he hasn't won anything since Luke Rockhold in 2022, and then Yoel Romero in 2019 before this. Essentially what we're looking at are two people who blew their hype and opportunities to already be in the top 5, and they're going to fight each other now. Costa has no injuries on record other than an elbow infection he caught before the Chimaev fight at, I think it was like UFC 264. It was a long time ago. He competes like he's perpetually hurt. Whenever he's in the octagon, he's not doing anything. He's just standing there and he's watching. I don't like this. And it may be a cardio thing. It may be a confidence thing. But more activity out of Costa past maybe scoring a big moment, like whenever he does choose to act, he throws a spinning heel kick and it lands and he doesn't follow it at all. Because of this deficit in IQ, these issues that are surrounding the decisions that Paulo Costa makes whenever he's in the cage, I don't think that we're going to get the good ending. And that the activity of Kopylov will see him win this fight, and Paulo Costa is just going to get put in the nursing home after this. So, Kopylov wins via decision. That's going to be my prediction for the co-main event. The main event is going to be Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. And I saw that C next to Max Holloway's name, and I was like, wait, hold on now, brother. What are you talking about? I forgot that the BMF championship was a thing. And I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but this belt is made up. It's not even Holloway's. He lost a fight to a guy who's also now a lightweight, who made a permanent transfer up a weight class the same time that he chose to do it. So I don't know how that fight with Poirier wasn't for the BMF belt too. It wasn't because Dana White said that it wasn't, but That's the lineal BMF champion. What they're fighting for is like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. The real prize is Dustin getting to retire on a win. That's literally it. The BMF belt is like, I'm not sure if there's pay incentives for the fact that they are fighting for a title, but what does it really count for? In this third fight, I anticipate Dustin wearing the impacts of Holloway's strikes similarly to how he did in their second fight. He was absorbing the damage really well. Max Holloway also wasn't taking a crazy amount of damage off of Dustin Poirier either. There are just other parts of Dustin's game that will work whenever Max Holloway's won't. In the clinch, Dustin Poirier is going to be pretty much every single advantage that Dustin Poirier has over Max Holloway in the past, even whenever they were both at featherweight. It came from the fact that Max Holloway has always been physically less strong than Dustin Poirier. And that deficit in strength makes it so that this matchup always favors Dustin Poirier. Through Poirier 1 and 2 with Max Holloway, Holloway demonstrated issues with his power output and also his grappling defense that I think will land him into trouble again. Poirier is a thinking fighter who will tactically use his brute force to thrash physically weaker opponents. We saw this in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. And if Dustin Poirier knows for a fact that he's like technically better than you, then he's just going to have fun. He was jumping guillotines against Benoit Saint-Denis, and this was all in the name of him being better than Benoit and physically strong enough to the point where if he did end up on bottom after a botched guillotine attempt, he could just get up. I think that he was actually getting smashed in that first round. Hopefully Dustin is a bit more focused in this fight and isn't playing around as much. You can hit really hard like Conor. Conor is probably one of the hardest punchers I've ever seen fight with Dustin. The type of reactions that Conor's like lead uppercuts and also his left hand was eliciting out of Dustin Poirier, I've never seen him flinch like that. Even against Michael Chandler, who guaranteed hits harder as well. If you don't possess a fortified body which can handle abuse and return a heavy payload of damage, you're going to get finished by Dustin. Max before hadn't been strong enough to withstand that level of brutality out of the diamond. I don't think he's going to be still. It just really is going to depend on how much Max has been in that weight room and how much of a lightweight he has become since we last saw him fight. This is a matchup that's always going to favor Dustin. Gaethje and Dustin for a retirement fight is probably what we deserved, but I understand saving Dustin to challenge a separate contender. They're talking about Paddy versus Gaethje. Armin versus Gaethje is also a good fight. I don't know what they're going to do for title challengers, but there's still good fights to be made in this weight division, even with Dustin Poirier about to be gone, win or lose in this fight. A finish for Max is likely very dramatic and will involve a high kick since Max likely doesn't have enough stopping power in his hands to only win with boxing. He was able to find limited but some success against Volkanovski with the high kick, and we saw what Justin Gaethje was able to accomplish throwing a roundhouse up top against Dustin Poirier. So I'm still going to select Dustin Poirier via decision. Even like a mid-round submission too wouldn't be a bad call, but I'm going to select a decision here to happen. So now we're going to get into the full recap of my predictions. This is going to be all of my calls from the early prelims all the way into the main card. Before I get off of here, I also just wanted to say Movsar Evloev versus Aaron Pico is no longer happening. I'm glad I never bought into the hype, bro. Like, I don't know why all of a sudden we like Movsar Evloev. Who made us like Movsar? Or who is like the Rothschild family member who got into the MMA community and made us all believe that this is our number one contender and that he has nothing left to prove before he goes and fights for a belt? It could just be because everybody else had tried and failed against another champion or another contender. But Movsar, dude, like, this is really the guy that, like, this is who you want to push. Like, this is who you think deserves it the most. It's going to be so silly if, like, some time passes and this dude starts crying about not receiving the number one contendership whenever he had this opportunity and he blew it. It's the same thing that Armin did. And, like, we just want to see these guys get infinite opportunities to, like, get back to their belts whenever they had their chances, dude. Islam Makhachev's fourth defense was against Renato Moicano because Armin pulled out. And it's like, if Volkanovski does end up fighting Yair now, it's his fault. It's not anyone else's fault. It's his fault. And then people are going to be like, this is unbelievable. Movsar should deserve it. Movsar deserves his title shot. It's like, no, dude. He deserved this opportunity to fight Pico in Abu Dhabi. And they can still fight. It just won't be on this card. After he wins against Pico in Abu Dhabi, Dana White guaranteed that that's how he got his title shot. And if Aaron Pico won, then he would get the title shot. That's how the game is played. We can't just make up the rules as we go. But yeah, that's just how I feel about all of it. I don't understand, like, why people pedestal Armin, and Armin, I guess, is cool. Armin is cool. But I don't understand why people pedestal Mobzar as a contender, bro. He's annoying because he does this type of stuff. And he's not even fun to watch fight. So why do we like him again? Can somebody remind me in the comments? Like, please? Alright, fellas. I'm actually doing a lot better now. Everything is cool. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm doing a lot of focusing on things that are important. I'm cutting out all of the things that don't matter. And I'm going to keep on trying to move through my 20s and make sure that I'm doing the right stuff. Because that's what it's about. So, I love you guys. I just want to let everyone know that you're never out of hope. So, stay in there. Stand hard and keep fucking taking cuts in that batter's box, dude. Because eventually something is going to fruit.